So here's a continuation of the control valve for the steering rack. I did separate the right hand drive one. I also noticed something. As I said, this one was rebuilt. If you look at that bearing, they didn't put any grease on that, so that's a interesting thing. When I rebuilt mine, I did put grease. Now the thing is, on using this control valve, the bearing needs grease because you see there's a seal there. That's where the fluid stays, so there's no fluid on this bearing, and so you want to definitely pack it with grease. And again, this one, there's no grease on there at all. You can see that. Another thing I wanted to point out is I looked down this hole, and I'm not sure if you can see it very clearly, but you can see the torsion bar quite clearly through that hole. Now in this particular one, this is the one I originally pulled out, it was not aligned, and what I did was this, again I apologize, this bit I got a mallet, a little drift, and I hammered it down so the hole in there lined up with the hole in that metal thing. So I'm assuming that metal thing sleeve can come out if, you know, with a pair of pliers. So I'm not going to do that. But now it is aligned. It was off, but it isn't. This one, as I said, looks aligned okay. So I'm not going to strip this off. As I said, this one's a bit worn. I'm not going to use this, but I could if I wanted to take the pin out, pull it apart, but I think I'll just leave it as is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one back in. Now another thing I noticed is, as I told you, there was this ring that was missing on my unit, and so what I did, I got a pair of calipers. I put this on here. Sorry again. And I measured approximately from the bottom of the bearing to the top of that thing, that spool, and then I wanted to see how far it goes down inside this tube. And when I put this there where the bearing sits, it doesn't bottom out. There is a gap, and at the end there's a tube. You might be just see it's a bit out of focus, but there is a pipe. One of the pressure pipes goes in there, so there's a gap there. So what I'm thinking happened with my control valve is, because this ring was not on this spool valve, or whatever part this is called, I can refer to it in the book, I think it raised up, and potentially, this is what I'm thinking, I don't know the theory, it probably blocked the pipe over there, because when this is actually connected there is a gap, and I don't know how. Maybe also it's possible these pipes or these holes in this this part were being blocked by this being in the wrong place. As you can see, there are some 3 holes in there, 1, 2, 3, and it's just a pure sleeve. So it could be that when I put it together, and I'm not realizing that this ring was there to hold it together, I'm thinking this rose up, blocked the pipes, and that's why I had no power. So I am actually gonna put it all back together, my original thing, but I'll use this ring. I think I don't know if I've got one from somewhere. Might have something. I'll try and look, and I'll put it in the rack. And now I need to make some pipes. For this is my left-hand drive rack. I need to make some pipes. I do have a fancy high-end pipe bender, so I'm going to try and see what I can do. But I think is that this is the reason why I didn't have any power. Again, this rack that I got was from a parts car, and it was from an unknown rack. I didn't know if it was working or not, and maybe somebody had tampered with it before. but I will put it together, and I'm not sure when it's going to go back in the car because I don't have any plans. I don't need it, or well, it's probably going to go in a third Stag that I will get on the road one day, but it's a long way off. Anyway, I'm going to reassemble it, and I think this was the reason why my power steering wasn't working. They're not too difficult to, once you pull them apart and you do it a few times. And again, this is the later control valve. It's a lot easier to work with than the earlier one. So anyway, that's something, if you ever get down to this far, you can do that. And again, I'm not going to take the torsion bar because it looks like I'd probably change the O-ring at some other time because it's very soft. There is an O-ring here. To be honest, I don't know what the O-ring does down there in that part because it's not a physical hole. So maybe it's just sort of stop it. Yeah, I don't know. I physically I'm not sure. I don't want to take it apart unnecessarily. You have to take the bearing off. But I will leave that one. As long as it doesn't leak from this end, I should be okay. So, yep. We'll see. I think this is the problem with my power steering rack. Why I had it out so many times it couldn't work. So again, I think this is what happened with my original steering rack control, because I didn't have that ring at the bottom to keep this in place. This most probably rode up, and if you look, there's a couple of holes around there. If this rides up, those holes get blocked. I don't have a theory, but I think this is the only explanation why I wasn't getting any power, because these were blocked and nothing was going on. And as I said, there is room inside that top cover for it to sit there, and it's possible that this is what happens. So I'm hoping this is the fix to it. So in the Stag repair kit that you buy, you'll see a gasket that you can put on here. So this particular valve, control valve, doesn't need that gasket, but the earlier type does. In that particular case, I don't have it with me, but you can look at one of my older videos that I did on power steering. That one, the bearing actually gets lubricated by the power steering fluid, and so it can potentially leak here. So just put the gasket and put some well seal, Hymalar, whatever you use, Chromatex, to stop the fluid leaking out of this part. But again, this later control valve doesn't need that because you have this seal here. Now, I suppose if that seal leaks, it's going to leak through the steering boots. So anyway, sorry about that, just rambling on a little bit.